adapt to situations, where even as men, it's either one or the other. And if you're not willing to adapt, we're not teaching how to be adaptable. We're not teaching how to, be resilient, and how to deal with that resiliency. And because we're going to be discriminated against. We're going to be, I was walking with a friend, my best friend, we were coming from the Chinese food place, walking up the block, and we had two police officers. And I never feared police officers. I never had any reason to fear police officers. One officer literally stepped into me and bumped into me, and I did the right thing. I said, "Hey, sir, sorry, I apologize," and he turned around and they tried to arrest us, because, the way we looked and stuff. And so, and I was 12 at the time and I had no idea. So, but I never let things like that, I just looked at the person like, all right, maybe you're having a bad day. Maybe you're just a jerk, who knows? But I'm not going to blanket everyone else, because that's not right. That's not, you don't do that. It's not fair, and I wouldn't want that happen to me, just, be guilty by association. But, we definitely need to get to the point where we have to, when we get to situations like that, we have to learn how to adapt. We have to learn how to adapt to that situation, and where we can control our emotions, but also at the same time understand that our emotions are going to be able to help us get through these things, especially afterwards, because it can be a very traumatic experience. Be a very, very traumatic experience, for anyone. But if we're not teaching that resiliency to kind of balance that, that's when we see a lot of these problems, because that's when a lot of the stigma comes in, and you're supposed to be this way, you're supposed to be that way. And it really isn't like that.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So how were you raising your children during this time? Because I keep telling people there is no book on how to raise kids. Maybe that the what to expect when expecting that was good back then, but every kid is different, every situation is different, and there are times where I'm like, I don't even know how to do. So I have a 17 and 19-year-old, and it's just, and they're two totally different kids. My daughter is stubborn, my son is just hard-headed. It's just like, I don't know what to do. But so how do you, right, especially during this time, are you, of course, I'm going to say you're instilling those same values that you have, which is amazing. But yeah, I mean, how are you raising them right now? Because this time is crazy.
So in 2008, when I got married, my ex-wife and I, we had a family. She had two children from previous relationship, which I helped, raise and stuff. And they've lived with her, and, my ex-wife and I, we co-parent with our three. I really wasn't really into the church then. I was, I grew up in the church. I grew up Catholic. I did a lot of the traditions. I really didn't understand what it was like to be saved until, honestly, and it wasn't until after 9/11 when I was in tech school, and I was in training in Shepherd Air Force Base, in late 2001, early 2002, when it was a moment where, once you go through military entrance processing station, when you go to MEPS, they used to give you the New Testament. You go in there, used to give you the New Testament, a small little book. Remember, they used to give that to you.
Camouflage.
Yeah. So one day I was sitting outside. It was on a weekend. It was on the outside weekend. And I was just kind of like, I wouldn't say I was in despair. I was just kind of like in deep thought, kind of, and I opened up the book, and I opened up to Mark 11, verse 22 to 24. And it talks about where, Jesus is saying, if you believe that you can move this mountain and it be cast into the sea, it will be done. But you have to believe it. But first, before you do that, you have to settle your differences with anyone else. Don't hold any grudges. Don't hold anything else. You got to make sure you take care of that first before you're able to move this mountain. And that was really, really, that struck a chord with me. So when I came back from school, my trainer, he was a Christian, and he really started to get me into the church, and he really started building that foundation. And as I started, going through my career, and I started divulging into the Bible. When I got married in 2008, we weren't really in there, but as the kids started coming along, there was just this pull. It was like, hey man, you really have to build this foundation, because you see a lot of kids out there that they don't have a foundation. And so my kids, they're not going to just be representatives of my family. They're going to be representatives of the community. And if they're going to be in the community, I want them to be able to not only stand on a solid foundation, but also be leaders in their own home once they get older and they start having families of their own. And so once, after her and I divorced in 2018, I really got into the church. February 8th, 2018, I had to sign my resignation papers after 17 and a half years serving in the Air Force, because I was having issues with my commander. And so February 13th, I signed my divorce papers. 4 days later, I was baptized in my church. And so I took all that and all that emotion, everything everything that I did, and I was identified myself with. I was Sean the crew chief. I was Sean the F-16 guy. I was Sean the lead trainer. I was Sean the lead this, that. That was me. And I was no longer that anymore. I had to kind of reinvent myself, but I had no foundation to stand on. So I looked to Christ, and I built that foundation. So as my kids were getting older, I knew that if I'm not standing on this foundation, I can't expect them to do the same. So I have to set that example. So as I did that, I started bringing them into the church, we started going, make it a habit. Hey, this is going to be cool. We're going to have fun. And we did. And we love it. My kids love going to church every Sunday, and we talk about it, and we pray together, and we really do, have that bonding experience. And my kids are being, they're growing in the church, and the church leaders see that, and and you see the change and the transformation in how they're growing. And that's how I'm raising them. Now, I'm not only raising them just in that foundation of Christ, but I'm also having to understand that not everybody's going to understand this, and it's okay. It's okay. And that there's going to be things that are going to go against what we believe in our Bible and what God says is a sin. And that's okay too. We're not here to judge anyone. We're not here to say, hey, you're in this same-sex relationship and you're going to hell and you're going to. No, we're not here to say that. We're here to sit there and say, hey, how are you? What's going on? Is there anything I can do for you? Is there anything that I can help you with? No? Okay, cool. Here's my number. Here's who I am. That's that. I'm not going to judge you on what you can pray for them. You pray for them. You pray for their salvation. You pray that if they're having troubles in their life and they need that direction, you pray for them. And then if you have to, and if they want to reach out, you're there for them. But they wouldn't be able to help them if they didn't have that foundation. So that's how I'm raising my kids, to make sure that, you gotta plant your flag on something positive in order for you to be able to make your mark. I had a pilot tell me one time, he said, listen, man, if you're going to drop a 500-pounder, you better make sure that you understand that you're going to make an impact, and it's true. If you don't drop a bomb just to, because you want fireworks. Because you want to level something. And that's the way you have to look through life in that way. But if you're not standing on that foundation, what kind of impact are you making? Are you making that, that one bomb can go and level something that is completely innocent, and then you completely missed your mark? Or it can go and hit its target where that what you did was right, and what you did made a difference. And so that's how I'm raising my kids, them to understand that you have to have that positive platform, and no matter what, people are going to try and knock you off of it. But as long as you have that roots right there, especially rooted in God and rooted in that, there's nothing that's going to be able to knock you off unless you let them.
Oh my gosh. I'm super impressed. I'm so like I have no words because I think it's amazing that you turned some of the things that happen in your life and you turn into positive, because I know I served over 17 years as well, and I was devastated because I wanted to serve 20. But after I went through, I got out early, and I went through this suppression, and I believe I was saved again, or I shouldn't be here is all I'm going to say.
Mhm.
And I knew I had to do something, especially because I had kids that were watching.
Sure.
And I had to turn around and make something positive out of it. Like God had a plan. Maybe I wasn't supposed to stay in this long or whatever. And I had to teach my kids as well that it was okay to be sad, but to rise up again and to believe and pray and all that. So as you're telling your story, I'm sitting here like, man, it takes a lot of strength to do that. And I think it's just amazing that you were able to do that, and that your kids are now enjoying it and believing in it, and having the same values that you do, which is what we need in this world right now. Is we need those kids to not judge a book by its cover, and to um, just appreciate a person for who they are. So I commend you. I think that's amazing. And
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. But I will say this is that through all that time, I never did it by myself. And that's one thing I want people to understand is that, from my story is that I did not do this by myself. I didn't do it by myself. And I'll never say I did it by myself because I didn't. At times I felt alone. There's times where I felt, I was completely cast out. I felt that God wasn't talking to me. I didn't understand it, but it was him, molding me. It was him having me to understand that I had to rely on him and not rely on what I knew and what
yeah,
I felt like I had to fix. Because especially as a man, we feel like we're fixers.
yeah,
We have to fix the situation. And if the situation isn't the situation that we thought it was supposed to be, then, we have to get in there and fix it. That's not the case.
yeah,
That's not the case at all. We don't have to fix things. We don't have to always fix things. I read it said, God helps us create these habits, and our habits that we create every day, we may think that, well, I have to build these habits. I have to do these things to be successful. God is helping you create those habits. And he's saying, I want you to build these habits because I do want you to be successful. And this is how I'm going to help you. And this is how he helps us through that. But sometimes we forget that. We forget that he's helping us create these habits. But we sometimes think that because we are selfish or whatever, say, no, I did that. I did that. No, man. I'm telling you right now, I've had so much help. If it wasn't for the help of friends that I never thought I had,
yeah.
friends that from far away, books that I read, especially one that I absolutely 100% recommend. It's called Struggle Well. And it's something that everyone should read, especially anyone who suffers through depression and anxiety. And don't get me wrong, I still suffer from this. I still deal with this on a daily basis, because if I'm trying to succeed, I sometimes have that anxious. They're like, oh my God, are they going to resonate with me? Is this what I'm going to say? Am I going to say the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Am I taking on too much? And I start overthinking things
Yeah.
instead of saying, hey man, I just got to adapt to this situation that I'm in right now. Let me adapt to this. And that's how you break it down, because if not, you become this ball of thoughts and never ending thoughts. And then you go down these rabbit holes, and then you're like, hey man, how did I get here? And the hours of the day are gone, and you're like, forget this. You know what? Give me a beer. I'm watching Tiger King. You know what I mean? And let's call it a day. We're good. It's like, we're good. I just want to watch somebody else's completely real, train wreck of a life to figure out what is going in my head, and but as parents, sometimes we just can't do that, and so, because sometimes our kids need us, our kids really do need, and they look up to us, and when we're wrong, we have to sit there and say, hey, we're wrong.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You have to admit to them, like, hey, we're wrong. So that way they understand. You got to be that example, man. You have to be that example.
That is so true. No, I appreciate you saying that, especially that you didn't do it alone. He's always there.